Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 225, Lysis 213, B to E. Last time, Socrates and Menexenus reached absurd conclusions, and for that reason Socrates reverted to the original idea that the thing loving is the friend of the thing being loved, and the thing hating is the enemy of the thing being hated. I say the thing and not the person because Socrates is using the neuter as a philosophical abstract. This does seem to be the most logical expression for us, that the thing loving is the friend of the thing being loved, and the thing hating is the enemy of the thing being hated. But now Socrates once again complicates matters. Ukun tautahi min sumbesetai anankaion enai homologen, haper epiton proteron, polakis philon enai me philu, polakis de kai echthru, hotan e me philun tis phile, e kai misun phile, polakis de echthron enai me echthru, e kai philu. Hotan e me misun tis mise, e kai philun mise. Kindunue efe. So it's necessary for us to agree that the same things will happen which happened about the former things, that very often a friend is not of a friend, and very often even of an enemy, whenever either someone loves something which isn't loving, or even loves something hating, and that often an enemy is not of an enemy, or even of a friend, whenever someone hates the thing not hating, or hates even the thing loving. This seems likely, he said. I'm pretty sure Menexenus hasn't followed any of this. It sounds deliberately obfuscating. Logically, a thing loving will love something being loved. This is a simple case of active and passive. If the thing loving is actually a thing hating, the object would be a thing hated and not a thing being loved. However, the moment Socrates replaces a thing loving with friend, philon, instead of philun, then anything is possible. A friend, the thing loving, may actually love someone who doesn't love him back, or someone who even hates him back. This is the confusion we're seeing here now. Socrates has moved from a simple active-passive pairing to a noun which can have as an object whatever that object wants to do back to the noun. I'll repeat this just one more time. The thing loving necessarily has as its object the thing being loved, but a friend does not determine what the object of that friendship does in return. So this could be the friend of a friend, or the friend of someone who has absolutely no reciprocal feelings of friendship, or the friend could even be a friend of an enemy. The same applies to the one hating. Necessarily the one hating has as its object the one being hated. This is simple active and passive. But an enemy can be an enemy of an enemy, or of a friend, or of someone who couldn't care less. Tiunde chresometha endigo, e mete hoi philuntes philoi esontai, mete hoi philumenoi, mete hoi philuntestikai philumenoi. Alla kai para tauta alustinas et tifesomenenai philus alelois gignomenus. O maton diefe, O Socrates, o panu euporo egoge. What then are we to proclaim, I said, if neither the ones loving, and we're back to humans now, the ones loving will be friends, neither the ones being loved, nor both the ones loving and the ones being loved. Shall we say that there are others alongside these things who become friends to each other? No, by Zeus, he said, Socrates, I don't have a good supply. In other words, he can't find any other people who would be candidates to be philoi. We could also interpret what he says as, I don't have a solution, I don't have an answer. Euporia is the opposite of aporia, and aporia is the lack of an answer, at least in debate. We might say that Menexenus has reached an aporia. His sense of frustration may be discerned from his expletive, no by Zeus. The slave says almost the same thing when he reaches his aporia in the dialogue Meno. There he says, by Zeus, I don't know. Modern convention is that Socrates leads his interlocutors towards aporia so that they lose confidence in their prejudices and are therefore more amenable to thinking in new ways. So far as I can see, Menexenus didn't really have much of a prejudice. He assumed that he and Lysis were friends, and that Socrates is the one who has raised problems and refuted a straw man. Could it be that Socrates is doing his usual manipulation? Perhaps we'll never know. He carries on, Ara me endigo o Menexene to parapan uk orthos edzetumen. Surely, Menexenus, I said, we weren't searching absolutely, completely incorrectly. Socrates here uses yet another thing from Meno, the term to parapan, absolutely, completely, which tends to make arguments black and white, which is ideal for euristics. It also makes for a very extreme statement, which some people might be guaranteed to react to. Uk emoigedoke o Socrates efe ho Lysis, kai hame pon eruthriasen. It doesn't seem to me, Socrates, said Lysis, and straight away, while speaking, he went red. Edoke garmoi akont auton ekpheugen tolechthen diatos vodra prosechenton nun tois legomenois. For what he said seemed to me to escape him unwilling, that is, he spoke unwillingly, through intensely concentrating on the things being said. And then Socrates adds a little remark, which is very significant. Delos den kai hote ekroato hutos echon. Even when he was listening, he was clearly in this condition. We have to remember that Socrates and Menexenus are talking across Lysis. So Socrates could see how Lysis was reacting all the time. Lysis was probably turning his head from Menexenus to Socrates and back all the time, listening to everything they said. Socrates then was speaking not particularly to Menexenus, but for the benefit of Lysis, or perhaps for both of them. Whenever someone blushes in a Platonic dialogue, there is a reason for it. The other famous blush is when Thrasymachus in Republic is defeated by Socrates, and it symbolizes the monstrous soul of Thrasymachus being taken over by the human in the soul of Socrates. Elsewhere in the dialogue, the soul is likened to a monster controlled by a lion, controlled by a human. And in a degenerate soul, the monster can take over. Sometimes the lion can take over. But only in the aristocratic soul does the man control the lion, who helps him control the monster. And it is the aristocratic soul which can take over the tyrannical soul as the first step in fixing the tyrannical soul. As is so often the case in a Platonic dialogue, something said about the soul has to be dramatized in the dialogue itself. I'm not sure whether anything has been said about what has just happened to Lysis, so far anyway. Ego un boulomenos tonte Menexenon anapausai, kai ekenu hestes te philosophia, huto metabalon proston Lysin epoiumen tus logus. I, then, wanting to give Menexenus a rest, and being pleased with the philosophy of that one, in other words, Lysis, thus having turned towards Lysis, I began making the words. In other words, I started talking to Lysis. What exactly was the philosophy of Lysis which Socrates is so pleased about? He didn't say very much. He only said, "It doesn't seem to me," and this was in answer to a leading question. Surely we weren't investigating absolutely incorrectly. The philosophy of Lysis surely lies in the fact that he has been paying attention for quite a time now, and he's completely wrapped up in the argument, and he blushed. This may well simply be because he refuses to accept that he and Menexenus are not friends, which is one of the conclusions Socrates had come to. It's not often that Socrates enjoys the philosophy of anyone in the dialogues. In fact, I don't think he does anywhere else. And we really should notice that this mention of philosophy comes in a conversation about philia. This is the love of whatever Sophia means. Sophia should mean expertise. The conversation is about philia itself. Where is the expertise in philia? Is it the case that friendship is something that needs to be learnt as well as practiced? Would the earlier conversation with Lysis about technai then finally have some point? We probably won't find out next time.